Probably one of the coolest experiences I had as a child going to Speedway was meeting the 1937 world champion Jack Milne. I was coming through the entrance gate at the Costa Mesa Speedway, and I was just kind of like walking around, and this guy, he said to me, "See that man next to you? That's the world champion.
You were the champion.
And you might want to talk to him. He's a very special guy." And I was just like, okay. And then I tapped Jack Milne like on the leg, and he looked down at me and he said, "Hello, little boy." And I said, "Hi, this man told me you're a special Speedway racer back many years ago," because he was quite old. And I said, "Hi, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you." And Jack was like dumbfounded. I mean, he was like, he's a nice guy and he's kind of quiet. And Jack is like a guy who didn't like to be in the limelight that much. That's why he had his promoter partner, Harry Oxley, do a lot of like talking and stuff. Jack didn't like to be in the limelight, and he was a quiet, humble, soft-spoken man. And he was nice though to me, and I always remember that, meeting him. I wasn't a racer at the time. I was just a little guy going to Speedway. I found out other stories about Jack from my friend Brad Oxley. He was telling me that like when he was a young boy, he would see Jack's racing trophies, and he would like look at him, and Jack would say, "You like that trophy?" And Brad would say, "Yeah, it's cool." And it was probably one of his championship trophies, a big like mug. And Jack says, "Just take it home. You can keep it." So Brad Oxley took that championship mug home, and he was putting coins in it. That was his piggy bank, was Jack Milne's championship trophy. He used that mug to use for the Jack Milne Cup. So that mug you see on the Jack Milne Cup, that was the trophy that Jack Milne gave to Brad Oxley, and they turned it into a trophy. To every year they have, I believe it's the opening night, is the Jack Milne, and it's a very prestigious cup, and lots of very top riders' names are on that cup. And I've won opening night too at Costa Mesa, but it wasn't in that particular division. But Jack Milne's been around Speedway for so many years. When he came back from England, he was promoting Speedway, and they were just promoting Speedway all over California, Southern California, San Diego, all over the place, Los Angeles. And Jack Milne really became quite the promoter. I believe his brother Cordy was doing it too. They're kind of quiet guys, but they had like all the knowledge of how to promote Speedway and how to run a Speedway race, because they had been involved in Speedway for so many years. They suffered a lot in their younger days. They would go to England as young racers. They would take a boat. It would take like 3 months to get to England from, I guess, New York or something. And they would have all that time to like work on their bikes and stuff like that. And by the time they got to the Speedway races in England, Jack said, "I had to win because I had no money, because it cost so much money to take the ship to England, plus eating and surviving for 3 months." So Jack was forced, and Cordy, his brother, was forced to win. And boy, did they win Speedway races. And like I say, Jack was the 37 world champion, and he was just a gifted racer. Jack nearly won another world championship, and right before the World War II started, in like 39, I guess it was, that his brother, Cordy, he was in line to win that world championship. He was top in points, and he was the favorite to win the world championship. And then World War II broke out. Hitler was invading England, and the Milne brothers had to get the heck out of there, because there was a war coming to England. and the ship that the Milne brothers went out on, they were carrying like American flag or something so that the Germans would not bomb them. They had to get out of the area, and they came home, probably traumatized, and they never went back again in England. That was the last time you ever heard or saw the Milne brothers in England racing, or probably visiting. You know, I was in England many years ago too, and I know there's a lot of people who love England to this day to hang out, but I was there, and I've been to several Speedway races back in like 79 or 80, and I saw like hang out with Bruce Penhall and Bobby Schwartz in the pits one night at Hackney after the races and chatted with them. And you know, I got to see, you know, how difficult that life is for the Speedway racers. And, you know, it's just a really tough life. And I was trying to find Brad Oxley when he was racing there. I think it was Wembley. And I couldn't find his races at the time. But it was just a rough life over there in England. I never been back to England. I kind of prefer the warmer climates, tropical climates. That's why I always went to Hawaii and then retired to the Philippines, because I like warmer weather and stuff. But England was brutal for these guys, and it was tough. And these guys were really like strong individuals to withstand all the challenges they had to race back in those days. But Jack Milne was a really cool guy, and I've got a chance to meet Jack Milne's brother's daughter, and that was Sandra Hicks, and she's still around today. And Sandra is just an encyclopedia for knowledge for the Milne brothers and for her dad, Cordy Milne, and they were just fantastic Speedway riders. And I got to learn a little bit about history of the Costa Mesa Speedway, how it was not just Harry Oxley and Jack Milne, but it was her dad, Cordy, and another guy who was promoter. So Costa Mesa started out with 4 promoters, but traditionally we always know that there was just 2 promoters, and that was Harry Oxley and Jack Milne. And Harry was like a service manager for Jack at the Milne Brothers. And the Milne Brothers was like a car dealership, and they sold JAP motorcycles and motorcycle parts. And Jack Milne was quite the character. He started a business for building grandstands, and he would build lots of grandstands for the Rose Parade in Pasadena, California. Jack Milne was from Pasadena, and so he was always building businesses. And back in the early days, Jack Milne had a gas station. And when Jack saw Cordy's success as a motorcycle racer in Los Angeles, Jack and Lammy Lamoureux, they were sort of eating popcorn watching Jack Milne, watching Cordy Milne win races. And Jack and Lammy, get them all mixed up, they're all from Pasadena, so it's kind of like a threesome there of friends. And they decided to start getting serious about racing Speedway, Lammy and Jack, after watching Jack's brother, Cordy, race and succeed in Los Angeles. So Jack sold the gas station, and they bought a JAP Speedway bike, a beautiful brand new JAP Speedway bike from England, and it was shipped. And that's kind of how they started winning. JAPs were fast back in the day. That's why when you hear people talk about like some of their favorite Speedway riders, you'll hear the name Jack Milne, because he kicked it off for the Americans. Who is your favorite old-time rider, or do you have one? Do you have a free, like older, not now, but old racer?
If if we're talking about old racers, there's definitely got to be quite a bit of inspirational people. You go back to 1937 when Jack Milne won the world championship. He was the first American to ever do it. So that's, he was one of the 5 Americans to ever do it. There's only been 5 American world champions. So, if you look back on something like that, he would definitely probably be like a heavy hitter.
And there's only been like, I think, 5 United States world champions from the United States, and Jack Milne was the first. So it's just very special. When you're the first of something, it's kind of like your name's in history forever. And Jack Milne was the first United States Speedway champion in 1937. But we honor the name of a very humble man, a very good man that I met when I was just a young boy. He died in the late 90s, and he lived a nice long life. But he was just a true sport character, champion, and he was a legend that we will always remember. And that is Jack Milne. Number 39, the first United States world champion, Jack Milne.